I would like to preface our tour by saying that no one deserves to suffer this kind of damage to their homes, their farms, or their businesses. These are all salt-of-the-earth people out here, and unfortunately they suffered the brute force of Mother Nature and her abilities. We personally were very fortunate on our farm to be about 3 to 4 miles away from the devastating path of this tornado. We didn't suffer any issues here, but other people were not quite so lucky. Unfortunately, in the world, a lot of times you are just one stroke of bad luck away from being the person staring down the barrel of that loaded gun. That being said, I don't want this video to come off in bad taste. We're going to respectfully and courteously look around at some damage on some people's farms and homes, and I can assure you that when the dust settles and these people are ready, we will help them clean up and repair. Not only is it the Midwestern thing to do, it's the farmer thing to do. But if they were in our shoes, they would do the same for us. So everyone, we're gonna look around, not gonna focus on anything too much, gonna check out the damage. Based on all of the intel I've gathered, this relatively strong tornado was on the ground for about 15 miles. It started south of Windsor and it ended in Humboldt, which is about northeast of Mattoon, 4 or 5 miles. There was a lot of devastation along the way. I don't think the tornado picked up but 1 or 2 times, and it left a trail the entire way across. A lot of farms not looking so pretty today. We're roughly a mile to the southeast of Windsor. This is the first farm with major damage that I've seen. This is a row crop and cattle farm. The only thing left of that machine shed, which was originally the size of ours, if not bigger, is what's wrapped around their farm equipment. I've never seen anything like that before. I came by here about 2 hours ago, and it was so great to see there's so many people here with livestock trailers, I assume, helping them get their cattle out of here. Trailers are flipped over. There's one about 100 yards out into the field. That's really unfortunate. Oh my. Really breaks your heart to see that. Their barn is just scattered all the way across the field. We're 300 yards away from that barn and stuff is still just laying around. There is wood, I assume from the rafters or the supports of those barns, stabbed into the ground out here. Unreal. It's a part of someone's barn out in the field. You don't even have to guess which way the tornado went. It leaves a nice trail. Looks like the next property on its stop was that nice farm right up there. I can clearly see from a half-mile away that the barns on the south end of that farm are destroyed. They're a Pioneer dealer, so hopefully they didn't have any seed corn in there. Oh, their grain bags are ripped open out there. They've got entire mile sections closed off to work on power lines and clean up debris. Back there is the FS fuel depot. That's where our fuel comes from. Unfortunately, they suffered from an explosion within the last year, had to do all sorts of environmental cleanup, got everything back up and running, and now the only thing left standing at that depot is 3 storage tanks. The office, the barns, everything else is completely gone. Right now we're driving right on the north side of the small village of Gaze between Windsor and Mattoon on Route 16, where the tornado went directly through and caused a tremendous amount of damage. Shingles, siding, tin, wood, and pumpkins for some reason just spread all the way out across the countryside here. Well, wow, that farm was completely destroyed. Terrible. Grain bins just strung out like paper. I do not believe that snow fence was rated for tornado force winds, which is not something you really need to be concerned about in December most of the time. Trees just pummeled out there, just flat. Holy moly. Those bins somehow made it. Must have been full. That place, oh man. Outbuildings gone. Trees, running gears, bins. Just out through the field. Like there was nothing to them. Part of a wagon. We're on the west side of Mattoon now, and this lot right here, there's a grain bin wrapped around a tree. The foliage looks like a hailstorm went through. Oh my. Look at that devastation. And look at the path. You don't have to guess, guys. That's where the tornado went. That direction. That 40 right there is entirely covered in debris from that house, trees, grain bin. There's a large part of it 300 yards away from where it came. And unfortunately, we were affected somewhat because we have debris scattered across our field. That's half a grain bin. Traveled 500 yards. At least the tornado did us the favor of crumpling us a little bit, make the cleanup a little bit easier. An equally tragic and awe-inspiring path of destruction right here. This really just showcases exactly how insignificant we are in the grand scheme of things. There's not a single thing we could do to stop this. Of course, we're extremely grateful that we didn't have any structures damaged ourselves, but we didn't miss out on the fun. I did a short flight with the drone just here over our property. I didn't want to be nosy on anyone else. And out through the countryside, you could actually see the path of the tornado in the ground. It's quite the ordeal. In other completely unrelated news, we have a slightly used, pre-disassembled bin for sale. If anyone's interested, I can show you where it is. It's so muddy out in the fields that the power companies are having to drag the line trucks out into the field with bulldozers to fix the transmission lines, which is just a necessary evil. I mean, that's the only way they're going to get out there. The trucks get stuck in the first 10 foot without something heavy to pull them. Here's another farm that got directly hit, just completely shredded to the bone. Wow. Grain bins wrapped around trees. Oh man. Machine shed ripped in half. That's terrible. I would say that's the missing half of the shed out in that field. No match for Mother Nature. Not much I can say about this one. Barns are gone. Wrapped around the house. Roofs torn open. Attics exposed. Oh. Look at the debris out in the fields. Unreal. There's supposed to be power poles here, but there's like 4 or 5 of them in a row missing. Lines strung everywhere. The Amish, though, they don't care. Horse and buggies can do anything. Another grain bin out in the middle of someone else's field, and just a wake of destruction. Add that to the list of machine sheds torn apart. Another farm affected. Another farmer with a machine shed torn open. Looks like the doors were ripped off the buildings. Either this person had a tree house up there, or that is the siding off of one of these barns on the other side of the road. How do you even get that down? Cut the tree down? This was arguably one of the hardest hit places. Roofs off the house. Livestock, trailer destroyed, and did a number on it. And I was so impressed this morning to see 50 cars parked outside helping these people clean up. This warehouse is ripped apart. Building tore into, trucks flipped over. That may be the worst damage I've seen. Entire warehouse torn apart. Insulation across the field. We're a couple miles straight north of Mattoon right now. That manufacturing plant right there is R.R. Donnelly's, and an entire wing of that building is crumpled in. There's no denying the fact that this storm has caused a large amount of financial damage. However, I do believe that is the last thing this storm hit, or the tornado, because the power lines are still up here. I would imagine that it started to lift up because this house is fine. There's debris, which is probably just what was in the air from that plant. End of the line. What in the hillbilly is going on right here? I didn't realize that tornadoes could stack things neatly in a driveway. No, they can't. Oh, they can write too. Lied in court. Ooh. I cannot repeat some of those words. Sounds like a disgruntled worker did that. Interesting approach. All things being considered, I think we should really count our blessings that this tornado stayed away from any highly populated areas. We can repair, we can rebuild, but we cannot replace the loss of someone's life. New buildings, items, and trinkets are made every day, but they do not make the same person twice. There were other areas that did not have the same fate last night. The same supercell that was home to this tornado spent some time in Edwardsville, which is about 100 miles to the west-southwest of here, and caused some loss of life down there. It hit some urban areas, destroyed an Amazon warehouse, and overall had a much larger impact than it did here. All that I ask of you after watching this video is that you keep the families and businesses that were affected in your hearts. I also think that we should be greatly appreciative of all of our first responders, including our linemen out there. Some of those police officers and firemen were out within minutes of this tornado clearing, looking through the rubble to make sure everyone was safe and no one got injured. I'm almost certain that some of you would like to help us here out, but I can guarantee you that the Coles and Shelby County communities will help all of our neighbors out and get them back to where they were, if not better. I think the best thing you can do is to continue to support your first responders, whether financially, physically, or just morally, because they face a very large amount of adversity in modern times. Our first responders are the men and women who always have our back. They are always the first one to rush out into dangerous conditions to make sure that you and I are safe. I appreciate you all tuning in. Have a great day.